Okay, we're up to Daf Mem Hey Amid Aleph. We're about 9 lines down by the 2 dots. We have a mice over here. To totally understand the mice, let's bring in a pasuk. Okay, we have a pasuk over here. Share a pasuk. Like Saskir Eved El Adoinav, you shouldn't return an Eved to his master. Asher Yinotz Le'lecha, that he escapes to you, Me'im Adoinav, from his master. Imche Yeshev, you will sit, B'kir B'chang among you, B'mokam Asher Yivchar Ba'achat Sharech, and the place you choose in one of your gates, but Toiv Loi V'Leisenenu. So what's it speaking about? Any Eved that runs along and comes up to you, you take him in. So we're going to see what this pasuk is. What exactly is it speaking about? That's what we're under discussion to understand this Maisa. Okay, what happens in the Maisa? Who Avdot, there was this Eved, the Orik mit Chutz La'aretz, he ran from Chutz La'aretz. So we've been dealing with Avodim that are leaving from Eretz Yisrael to Chutz La'aretz. Here we're dealing with a case where he came from Chutz La'aretz to Eretz Yisrael. Osel Mori Abasrei, and his master came after him. Osel Kameder Ramami came in front of Ramami, and Amalei, Rami told him, Nichtoiv Lecha Shtara Adameha, he'll write you a star on his worth, because of Gitin the Cherusa. In other words, we'll write to you a star that he'll pay you when he gets money, the Eved will pay you, and you free him. And if you don't free him, I'm going to go ahead and take him away from you at a loss, using whose halacha? From Rav Achi Reb Yoshia. So now we're going to have a long-winded brisa based upon the pasuk we saw, and Rav Achi is going to say it's speaking about an Eved that came from Chutz La'aretz to Eretz Yisrael. Okay, that's what it's going to be speaking about, and that, like that shita, we would have a source to go ahead and free this individual. Titania, La Yeshu Ba'artzecha. It says by the Zayin Umos. The Zayin Umos should not settle in your land. Let they're going to go ahead and cause you to sin to me. In other words, there's a din of Leisachaya Kol Neshama. You have to get rid of the Zayin Umos because lest they go ahead and affect you and have you do Avodah Zarah. Yachal, I would think, I might think about any guy, even if the guy is makabel not to do Avodah Zarah, there's a mitzvah to throw him out of your land. Talmud Leimar, Sasker Eved El Adoinav, Asher Yinotz Le'lecha, right? Do not go ahead and give an Eved to his master that he escapes to you. Now, my takanta, Imche Yeshe B'kir B'cha. So he's darshaning the pasuk like this. He's darshaning, guys, this pasuk like this. He's saying this pasuk. If an Eved is a guy and he doesn't want to do Avodah Zarah and he comes over to you, Sasker Eved Adoinav, do not return him to his master. Don't return him back to his Avodah Zarah. He's leaving what? He's leaving Avodah Zarah. Don't return him to that. But you, he could sit. Be careful. So, why does it say Mim Adoinav? It should say Mim Eloikav. Change the gears, guys. If you're talking about a guy who's leaving Avodah Zarah, why do you use the Lashon Adoinav, which means his master? Use the word Eloikav, which means his God. Again, the way the person was teaching this pasuk is that don't return a guy to his Avodah Zarah, then it should say El Adoinav or El Kav. So, Ella Amar Rabbi Yoshia, what is it speaking about? We're speaking about our Mishnah, where someone would go ahead and sell his Eved to Chutz La'aretz. That he escapes to you, that he escapes from you. In other words, he's leaving from Eretz Yisrael to Chutz La'aretz. In other words, so therefore, do not give over an Eved who wants to escape from you, right, and go to Chutz La'aretz. Do not do it up. So Ella, what's the pshat in this pasuk? Ella Omrav Ache Rabbi Yoshi. This is what we need. Be'eved shebarach michutz la'aretz la'aretz. You know what we're speaking about? We're speaking about an Eved that ran from Chutz La'aretz to Eretz Yisrael. which is the case over here. And therefore, like sasker eved el adoinav, do not return an eved who's running away from his master from Chutz La'aretz to Eretz Yisrael. Asher yinatzal lecha, he's escaping to you. Me'im adoina from his eved in Chutz La'aretz, from his master in Chutz La'aretz. Imcha yeshev, but you in Eretz Yisrael, you should sit b'kir b'cha. That's now. So therefore, said Rav Ami, back to this individual, using this drasha of Rav Achi that we just explained the pasuk, we could take him away from you. So better off go ahead and let us write a star on his worth and we'll pay you back when he can, or else we'll just take him away from you, which based upon Rav Achi's pshat in this pasuk, we will be able to do. So again, an obscure pasuk being brought to light by Rav Achi. Tanya Yidach, like another way to learn pshat in this pasuk, like Sasra Eved al Adoinav, Rabbi Omer, B'lakech Eved al Manas L'Shachrei Akos Medaber. You're speaking about you buy an Eved for the purpose of going ahead and freeing him. Heichi Dami, what would this case be? Rav Nachman Yitzchak, the Kosev Lehachi. When I buy you, you'll be acquired from yourself from now. Okay, so we have this is Rebbe's Shita is speaking of the Shita of Reb Meir. If you look at Rashi, guys, Almanas Shachroi, the Hizra Kosev LeBezdin, Bezdin is warning the person, Sheyakfuhu, they should force him, that he should not be meshubit to him. When I purchase you, and when I purchase you, you will be what? You'll be free retroactively. The Rebbe Kreb Meir the Rebbe holds like Reb Meir. Okay, so now let's go back to the pasuk, and now we have two pshatim in the pasuk, guys. Right? We have two ways to learn pshat in this pasuk. If you're speaking about it, according to Rav Achi Rav Yoshia, if an Eved runs from Chutz La'aretz to Eretz Yisrael, like Sasker Eved el Adoinav, don't return him. Asher yinatzal lecha. According to Rabbi, if you write a star to your Eved to free him, that when you buy him, even though it's lo b'olam yet, lo Sasker Eved el Adoinav, don't return him to the master, but let him go free. Those are the two ways to learn pshat in this pasuk. Okay, so based upon this, Rav Achi Rav Yoshi's pshat, Rav Ami said, after all, we can take him away from you. Better off, let us write a star in his worth. So now, Rav Chisda arak le avdo lebekutoi. Rav Chisda, he escaped from him an eved lebekutoi. Hash this among the kutim guys, right? But and this was in Chutz La'aretz. This was in Chutz La'aretz. And Shalach lahu, Rav Chisda sent to them, Hadruhu ne'alei, return him to me. Shalchulei, they said back to him, like Sasker Evela Doinav, we can't return an ever to his master once he runs away, and he ran away from you. Now, there is no pshat in this pasuk, fellas, that works, right? According to Rav Achai, it's speaking from a person going from Chutz La'aretz to Eretz Yisrael. According to Rabbi, it's speaking about someone who wrote a star saying when he purchases him, he's going to free him. So l'chayra, they have the way they're touching the pasuk, it doesn't have any legs to stand on. Why they would not be able to give back Rav Chisda his pasuk? So shalchalahu. So Rav Chisda sent back to them. Ahu be'eved shebarach michutz la'aretz with Rav Achai Rav Yoshia. The pasuk that you're quoting, right? The pasuk that you're quoting, you're not quoting correctly. That pasuk speaking about going from Chutz La'aretz to Eretz Yisrael. I'm speaking about an Eved that went from Chutz La'aretz to Chutz La'aretz. Why did he choose Rav Achi Rav Yoshia? He could have said Rebbe's pshat, guys, right? That the pasuk is speaking about the person who had that special kinyan that when he purchased him, he's going to free him. All he had to tell him was, it's not speaking about an Eved that ran from Chutz La'aretz to Chutz La'aretz. He had two possible ways to explain the pasuk. Why did he opt for Rav Achai the Amoira rather than Rebbe the Tana? It says the Gemara Mishnah the Mashmalu Kroi, because the pasuk appears much like that. Guys, let's look at Rashi. Very geschmack of Rashi here. So they were all in Chutz La'aretz. The mashmalu kroi, pashte de kroi hachi mashmalu tvei. It's mashma more like Reb Achai, then what, and then Rebbe. Vehain and the Kutim, ain't shoymim l'dibrei chachamim, lahachi le'sholchu l'karebi. Therefore, it didn't sound like Rebbe. Do you remember we had the Gemara with the Kutim? How did they taish the evil site michshol? Right, they taish it to the letter of the law. So, if you can explain to the Kutim a pasuk, you can explain to him the one that will make the most sense. Rebbe's pshat in that pasuk is much more of a reach than Rav Achai's pshat in the pasuk. So therefore, Rav Chisda chose to go ahead and use the Rav Achai, which they'd listen to, because it's more, don't return it. Don't return. After all, you ran from here to here, rather than Rebbe's case, which you have to lumdus of, don't return an eved that you have to mak the davish labaloilam, which already they won't listen to. So Rashi is very geshmak in explaining the Gemara why this would be clearer to them. Abaya irkis lechamra. Abaya lost a chamar. Bekutoi by the kutim. Shalchalahu, he sent to them. Shadruli, send them back to me. Shalchalei, shalach simona. They sent back to Abaya. What's the simon? Shalchalahu, the chivra prise. It's got a white stomach. Shalchalahu, ilavdi nachmeni at. If not that you were nachmeni, right? We had that Rabbi earlier in Daf Lamed Daled. He's named after Rabbi's father, or that was his name. We wouldn't return it to you. The kuli chamra lav krisoicha. All chamra have white stomachs, but since you're nachmeni, and the halacha is by a Talmud Chacham Sumar Rabbanon, you return an aveda b'toivasayin if they go ahead and recognize something, right? So when Mela, since you're nachmeni, we'll return it to you. Obviously, you recognize that this is your chamar. So sorry. The next Mishnah is world famous Mishnah. Ein poidinas hashvuyin yois al demei yois al kedei demeyen. Pidyon shvuyin is a huge mitzvah, but you can't be poidin more than they're worth. Ein poidinas hashvuyin yois al kedei demeyen. If they tikkun oilam, because of the tikkun oilam, we're going to see what the tikkun oilam is in the Gemara. A second din in the Mishnah. They mavrichin es hashvuyin if they tikkun oilam, and we don't help people escape because tikkun oilam. Shem yolayim if they takonas hashvuyin. Not because tikkun oilam, but because the takana of the shvuyim that are still captured. Okay, that's the very cryptic Mishnah. Two halachas. One, you don't redeem a captive more than the value, and two, you don't help people escape. Iboilu, the first thing. Hi, if they tikkun oilam, shem duchka the siburahu. If you're going to go ahead and be captured, and it's going to go ahead and force the tzibur to spend an inordinate amount of money, then it's going to leave the tzibur as aniyim. So, the tikkun oilam is more than its value. We're not going to go ahead. Of course, there's a din opinion shvuyin. It's a great mitzvah, but more than its value, we won't go ahead and expect the person to pay because, again, it would be such a financial burden on the tzibur. Right? That's one pshat. By Dilma, perhaps they shouldn't capture and do more. In other words, the goyim might see this as a good business. If you capture somebody and you're going to go ahead and kidnap him and spend an inordinate amount of money, why should they stop? So by going ahead and agreeing not to go ahead and go through this, right, then they won't go ahead and continue to capture people. Rashi says, why would the nafkamina be? Right? Why would the nafkamina be? If you have a rich person that doesn't have to come with the tzibur. If he's very wealthy and he can afford it, then he can go ahead and redeem him for more. On the other hand, if he's not, if it's because of the reason of they shouldn't get used to it, then not. As the Gemara brings the Maisa now, Toshma, the Levi Bar Darga, who was obviously a very rich person, Parke Lebarte, he redeemed his daughter, Betleser Alfi Dinar, 13,000 dinars of, a crazy amount of money. So we could be pushed the Shaila, it's the tzibur, because now he's not being doichik to tzibur because he's an individual. Mashen Kain, if it was not to train the goyim to do it more, they wouldn't let him. So, says the Gemara, Amar Abayu, man leimelon de beratzon chachamim avid. How do you know he did correctly what the chachamim want? Dilma shlei beratzon chachamim avid. Maybe they did without the beratzon chachamim. Right? Maybe they didn't want that. Okay, maybe they didn't want that. Okay, so there's a very famous Tosfos here. It says Tosfos, Loyla Garvu Velaisi, Vadatanya Perak Naira, Nishbis Vahoy Mavakshimi Mena at Esad Asardameha. If they captured and they asked for more than her worth for your wife, Parmisha and Paida. So why Kasha? Why do you have to be paid to your wife for 10 times the amount when it says over here you don't? It says the Gemara, Shiny Ishtay Dahavi Kegufay Yoisami Bitay. So for his daughter, you wouldn't go ahead more than her worth, but your wife, that's like yourself, you would go ahead. Pirish. When it says a person can't be paid to themselves more than the worth, that's if he's not being paid himself. If he's being paid himself, he could spend even more. And therefore, for your wife, which Isla Kegufo, you could spend more. So therefore, one person that you can spend more on than the Mishnah's Takana is yourself. Rabbi Yeshua ben Chananya, the Parkei Elahu Tinoik b'Mamin Harbe Bani Zakin. We're going to see Rabbi Yeshua ben Chananya went overboard to go ahead. There was this Hiluyish kid who was captured and he spent money to get. Muflik b'chachma, right? He was muflik b'chachma. Okay, but what it means muflik b'chachma. So in other words, if you have a person who's an exceptional Talmid Chacham, then this thing would apply. So Taisus Fellas is giving us two addendums to this din. This din that you're saying, that a person can't spend more for pidyon shvuyin is not by everybody. If it's himself, he could, and if it's a person that's muflik b'chachma, right, we can't. Yedua, the Ma'aser of the Marami Rutenberg. The Marami Rutenberg was the Gedoli Rishonim. He was the Rebbe of the Rosh and the Rebbe of the Mordechai. He was captured, and they wanted to be paid him for a tremendous amount of money, and he did not allow it. And for 7 years, he was captive for 7 years, and he died. 14 years later, a person was paid his body. 14 years later, Al-Manas, when the person died, he'd be buried next to him. Kachoya in the cemetery in Worms, they're very side by side. So you see that nonetheless, Rabbi Marami Rutenberg, who was Muflik B'Chachma, he did not want them to go ahead and be paid to him because he knew what that would happen. Again, why do they capture Israeli soldiers? What do they do? For one Israeli soldier, you're going to go ahead and spend 2,000 Arabs. I'm saying they do it all the time. Second in the Mishnah, because what's going to happen? They're going to mistreat future captives, right? If we help them escape, then they're going to mistreat future captives. The captures that are already there. In other words, if there's more than one, right, that's already there, then they're going to mistreat him. So according to the Tanakama, it's a din, a universal din. Never help them escape, because the goyim, if they capture anyone in the future, they'll mistreat him worse. Like Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, right? Like Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, right? Only the ones that are there already. So my binayu, the difference between the two, it can be nayu, the lek elachad. If he's the only game in town, like Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, you'd help him escape. Why? Because there's no one else that they're going to mistreat. Like the Tanakama, that they're going to mistreat future ones. Therefore, even one person you would not help escape. Okay, very famous story. Bin Seder of Nachman, the daughters of Nachman, Bachshin Kidera Biyadayu. They were able to take their hands and put it in a boiling pot and stir it with their hands. So l'chayra, they held they were great zirkoniyos, that they were not affected by the boiling soup, they were to. Right? So Kashalei Rav Elish had a problem. It says Adam Echad Me Elef Matzasi, the Isha B'chol Eila Loy Matzasi. I heard Ikka bin Seder Rav Nachman. You see that Rav Nachman's daughters, and yet Shlomo Melech said he didn't find such outstanding women. So how's it possible that they were able to stir the pot with their hands if not tzkanias? So Gormalahum Nolsa Vishtaboy, it happened, they were captured. Vishtaboy Ihi Nami Badayu, and Rav Elish was captured with the daughters of Rav Nachman. They were all captured. Yumachad Avi Yosef Gabei, Hu Gavra, Avi Yoda Belishna de Tzipure. There was a man sitting next to Rav Elish, and he understood the birds. He understood the chirping of the birds. Asa Urva, came along a raven, the Kakari lay, and the raven was chirping Amalei, and Rav Ilish said to the man, "My Amar, what's the raven saying?" So Amalei, he's saying, Ilish barach, Ilish barach. He's telling Ilish to run away, Ilish to run away. In other words, you can escape. Amar said, Rav Ilish, Urva Shikra have. Ravens tend to lie. It won't be samech on them. It's interesting that ravens are choshev. We spoke out in Parshas Noach. The raven doesn't trust its mate, right? That's why he don't want to do its mission. So you see that they're liars, but ever they're choshev other people. He won't be samech. Adhachi yasi yaina came along a yaina. The kokaria and the yaina was making noise. Amalei, my kamra. So if Ilish asked the man, what's the yaina saying? Amalei, Ilish barach. He's saying, run away. So Amar Knesset Yisrael Kiyonim Metila. Knesset Yisrael is a marshal as compared to what a Yoina, and therefore Shmamina Misrachash Lanisa. Shmamina that what a ness is about to happen to me, and I could escape. However, he was worried about the daughters of Rav Nachman. Amar Izul Achsei bin Seid Rav Nachman Ikayim Bem Nusayu Adranayu. I'll go and check on the daughters of Nachman, and if they're loyal to their husbands, if they weren't nichshol, they weren't mizaneh, then I'll return them as well. Nashi called Mili Deslahu, Sadran Lahadim basically say, women, where do they talk? They talk in the bathroom. Trust me, it's true. 40 years in girls' chinuch. They go ahead, they talk in the bathroom. So Shaminu Duka Armin, he heard them saying, he went and listened Achrei Apargud, and he heard the daughter saying, Adu Gurvin V'nardoi Gurvin, Adi, these Gurvin, right? Meaning with the men that captured us now, and our husbands, Nardoi Gurvin, Leimalu Lishivayu, Dilrachakinum Mehacha, Leilesi Inshi Lishma Lifkinu. In other words, that told people to stay away, we should go far away because we want to stay with them rather than go back to our husbands. So they were not loyal. So come Arak, us. So he got up, us Ihu, who Gavra. And he went up with this guy who understood birds, and they went to escape. Israchash Lanisa in Ofra b'Marva, and this happened, and Rav Ilish was able to cross the river. Who Gavra, the one who understood the birds, Ashkachu v'Kitluha. He went ahead, and they found him, they killed him. And Kihodrin v'Asa Omar Havikor Bachshin Kedera B'Kshafim. He came back and he informed everyone that Rav Nachman's daughters, that they were able to stir the pot with their hands, had nothing to do with their tzidkanios. It had to do with the fact they were pax and kishuv. That there's an unbelievable, very appropriate thing for Rav Avi would have known this. It would have been out in this week's parsha. I'm going to share with you Rav Chaim Shmulevitz, and this week with this Gemara and Parshas Balak. It's unbelievable. Take a look at the Gilyon Hashas. Reb Kiva Ega, Asa Irva V'Kokari, came along the raven and is talking. You have that one? You see, you guys have it, Reb Kiva Ega on the Shai. Everyone have it? So, Ba'orich, Hevi Nisu Yizu, Rav Ilish Yoda Sichas Ha'ifais. We see from this Maisa that Rav Ilish understood what birds say. Ukvarasigu b'seida dairis. How could Rav the Aruch say that Rav Ilish understood what the bird said? What was Rav Ilish doing over here? He was asking the guy, what did the raven say? What did the yoina say? So it's mashma the opposite, that he didn't know. Correct? You hear the kasha? Listen. Look at this piece. Okay. Reb Chaim Shmulevitz is going through things we can learn from the Pasha of Bilam. He was a Navi and he knew what Hashem wanted. When Kadosh Baruch Hu said, don't go with them, Amar Bilam el Sarai Balak, he told the princes of Balak, Me'ein Hashem l'siti lahalik imachem. Hashem does not want me to go with you. Pirish Rashi, Ela imsarim gedolim michem. He touched up. Hashem doesn't want me to go with you. Not that he doesn't want me to go, period. He doesn't want me to go with you. He'll only want me to go with someone bigger than you. The Hainu shebilam pirish es maimer Hashem firit Sinai the netav liboy. He touched up. He heard from Hashem. He touched up what he wanted to hear. Ki'ilu kol kabanas HaKadosh Baruch Hu lemono me halach lekales Yisrael. That he HaKadosh Baruch Hu held him back from cursing Yisrael. Eina elam b'fnei k'vayday, because of his covet doesn't pass to go with these regular guys. She'ein k'vayda shel bilam lahalech el am sorim gedolim v'chashuvim. Only with what? Greater people. A person hears what they want to hear. A person hears what they want to hear. Bilam touches up. Don't go. Hashem says, don't go. Perish. Don't go with them because it's not lefi your covet. Go with someone bigger than them, but you can curse. Uke'ein zeh onu might see him the Gemara Gitin Daf Memhei. Rav Ilish ishtaboy. Rav Ilish was captured. Yom Echad, the whole Gemara. Havayasel Gabei Gavra. Go, right? Okay, we did Gemara. Good. V'chasa Reb Kivega. V'chasa V'gan Reb Kivega. V'gilyan Hashas. V'orach hevi misug Yezu. The Rav Ilish Yoda Sichas Oifis. Ukvar Esigu B'Seida Adairis. The Kan Mashma V'hech. The opposite. Uliyashev Divrei Orach Hatmuim. The wondrous words of the Orach. Nira the Hine. Hamasha Hikshasham. The Keshem Shloi Hamin Rav Ilish Oirev Shikra. Ilish Barach. Kach Loi Hoya Loi Lahamin Lahu Gavra. Joyi Kinira Kinachri. This guy was a guy. Why would he, if he didn't believe the sheker of the Arev, why would he believe this guy? Why would he believe the guy who's touching up the pasuk? He's a guy. Touching up the birds. Uchenira hukshela arech kushazu. He had this kasha. The alkein hevi raya. The Rav Ilish ba'atzmai hoyaydeya lishna tzipurei. He did understand what the Arev was saying. Umashe shal Rav Ilish esahu gavra, and the reason why he was asking this person, Maika Amri, mishum shechashed es atzmai shema shemeyahu ba'aznav mashali b'chafetz shmaya. Maybe he was hearing what he wanted to hear. So therefore, l'chein shalahu gavra, he asked this person, the kivich afu heyit sheshama kain yad Rav Ilish ki emeshu masheshama ba'aznav. V'nicha kushas marsha v'dibya arach me'irim. Right. V'vura kan yisoid didan. Right. That person hears what they want to hear. Guys, you hear this Einish Pshat from Rav Chaim Shmulevitz, guys? You hear this Einish Pshat? He's in Skarav Kiyah's Kasha. Since a person B'teva hears what they want to hear, Rav Ilish understood what the birds were saying. But since he wanted to hear, he had to check it up. So he asked this guy. So why would he believe this guy? Because he understood in the first place himself. So the sheker of the Arev he didn't believe, but the Yoina he did believe. His Geshmak is anything. Parshas Balak, Mamish this week's Parsha. Ephraim, it's Kedai to come to Eretz Yisrael to hear that kind of Shmulevitz. Right? Mamish, you hear what you want to hear. Fantastic pshat. And also it answers us Reb Kivega's kasha. Rav Gusman said on Chaim Shmulevitz, I'm quoting you, as a Yid was Ken Sifra, was es durchgehorvet. In Sifra, Sifri, Yerushalmi, und versteht sich Bavli. Rav Gusman was made on Chaim Shmulevitz. He's a Jew. That is durchgehorvet means he went over and knew well every Sifra, every Sifri, every Yerushalmi, every Tosefta, and versteht sich and understood Bavli. He knew everything. And look at the person who was attesting to him, the Hadis of Rav Gusman. It's unbelievable. Okay, anyway, it illuminates the great Maisa, and also it gives you something to say by the Shabbos table. Anyway, the next Mishnah. You can't purchase Sfarim Tefillin Mezuzas from a guy more than they're worth on a base, right? If they tick an oilam, because of tick an oilam. Okay, says Rashi. In other words, the same problem you have when you go ahead and you're dealing with shvuyin, that would be the same problem you would have with Sfarim. They would either there would be a drain on the tzibur financially, or it would cause others to go ahead and incentivize goyim to steal more. Amli Rav Budya l'Rav Ashi. Yesral k'dei d'meyim hu dein loichin. Habichdei d'meyim loichin. But you would buy them, right? Now, why are you buying them? Shmami na a sefer Torah shenim sabiyar evik echavim kairin buy. A sefer Torah that's that's in the hands of a goy, right? You could read. It says Rashi, and we're not chayish that the guy wrote it for Avodah Zarah. It's a machlokes later on. So Rabbi wants to medayek from the Mishnah that if you buy it from the guy, you could read it. And the we're going to have a machlokes soon. Sells Gemara, you have no raya. Maybe you're not buying it to read it. Maybe you're buying it legeniza. In other words, we know that to treat Sifrei Kodesh with geniza by putting them away, burying them or such, that's why you're buying it from them. Amrav Nachman, Naktinon. Again, it's very interesting in Masechta Gitin. You constantly have Naktinon. We have a Messiah. Constantly at the Sugi, Naktinon. And Abaya brings over here, we have Messiah. Sefer Torah Shekasu Min. A Sefer Torah that's written by a Kaimer, by a priest, Yisaref. Because if it's written by a priest, it's written for Avodah Zarah. So there's no din of Geniza, and certainly you can read it, you burn it. Kasu Ovid Kechavim. If Ovid Kechavim wrote it, then you ganes. Then you go ahead and you're mesupik, whether you wrote it for Avodah Zarah or not, and therefore you go ahead and you need Geniza. Nimsi biad min yiganes. If you find it in the hands of a min yiganes, nimsi biad Ovid Kechavim, imila yignois, imila kairin. Some say you read it, and some say you don't. Let's see Rashi here. Nimsi biad min yignois, safik kasvoi, safik matzai, safik whether you wrote it, safik whether you found it for kashavu. Therefore, you do Geniza, you don't burn it. Nimsa bi'arev kechavim imri la yiganes. Some say yiganes. You go ahead, right, and you misfeka shema hu kasvoi. If you wrote it, you have to Geniza. The imri la kairin the svek svekahu shem Yisrael kasvu. Him tim salema hu kasvoi shema limchal Yisrael kasvu lo the shema b'des kechavim. So if you find it by a guy, maybe a Yid wrote it, and even if the Yid did write it, maybe the guy wrote it to send it to a Jew. If you look at Taisus, guys, the first Taisus on the page, he argues at Rashi. Go down the second thin line. The time of the Amila Kairin buying Yishum the Ikala Mitle, Tfeisha Yisrael Kastu, they ain't derech Chavim Lichtleif. The guy don't write derech Kal, they don't write Sifrei Torah. So you find a Sefer Torah that's written, it's written by what? By a Yid. Okay, so we have three machlokes. Back in the Gemara. Sefer Torah shekasu evekechavim tani chad yisaref. One says burn it. Tani idach yiganes. One says put it away. Tani idach kairim bay and loy kasha. Had the tani yisaref. The one that said burn it is Rabbi Lezahi. It's the Tana Rabbi Leza Damar stam machshavas avedis kechavim lavedis kechavim. Stam the machshav of a goy is avedis zara, and therefore what you're going to burn it. But the Tanya Yiganes, Hai Tanahu, the Tanya Rav Hamnuna, Brei the Rav Pashrunya, Sefer Torah, Tefillah Mezuzah, Shekasva, Masar, a person who gives you over to the government, Avikachavim or a guy, the Eved or an Isha, Vikatan, Vikuti, Yisrael, Mama Psulin, Shnemar, Ukshartim, Chasavtem. You should tie and you should write. Kol Sheieshna Bikshira, anyone is the ballpark Ukshartim in the ballpark of Tefillin, Yeshna Biksiva could write. So, and anyone is not in the ballpark of tefillin, ain't a b'ksiba. The Tanya Kairin boy. So therefore, that's the one that says Yiganes. The Tanya Kairin boy, Hai Tanu, the Tanya, Loikin Svarim and Oivik Yechavim, Bechol Makaim. You could buy Svarim from a guy, Bavachi Ksuvim Kil Chasam, provided they're written correctly. Well, my Sabai Yechavim Mecha, but Sidon, Shei Kaisev Svarim, Behitter of Shim Gamliel, Lichami Menu. One second. How could he allow you to buy Svarim from a guy? In other words, we know that we're going to see in a second that Rav Shimon Gamliel held you need Ibul Lishman. The tanning has to be Lishman. If the tanning has to be Lishman, certainly the Ksiva has to be written Lishman. So how could he buy from a guy and read from it? I didn't read Lishman. The Tanya, Tzipan Zahav, if you take tefillin and you cover them with gold, or you put on top of it the or of a treif animal, psulas, or behemoth hyrek sheres. You've done lishman, even though it wasn't worth lishman. Reb Shimon Gamliel Omer afilu or behemoth hyrek psulas, even the or of a cow would be pasalat shiyab lishman. So you got a problem. How could Reb Shimon Gamliel buy from this guy if he needs ibn lishman, tanning lishman? Certainly he would need ksiva lishman. Rabbi Bar Shmuel, beger shechazul l'suroi. We're speaking here about a ger who went back off the derech. So that's where he bought it from. So in other words, he was a Jew, so he knew the halacha, it has to be written Lishma. and then he went off the derech, and you could buy from him. Fred the Gemara, the suru, if he went off the derech, kolshke nahavle min, right? If he went back to his way, you should have to burn it. So Ravashi shechazel the sura mishum yira. No, this was a guy who became a yid, and then the goyim they went ahead and they said, "We're going to kill you if you don't go back." So he wasn't turning back because Bemis he believes in what they're selling. He's going back because he fears for his life. Therefore, he probably wrote it lishman, and therefore Shum Gamliel bought from him. Tan Rabbanan, Ma'alim b'demeim ad kadei tarpik. We said Yosef b'dei kudehem. A little more. Tarpik's a little. My tarpik. Sheshes istira. That's a coin. He to Yosef was his Arab. The Isik Yosef the tefillin coming to Abaya. She bought a bigger tefillin to Abaya. Amallah. The obviously reish. He said to give it to me one at a time. Zug pairs and pairs. The Tamri for what? For dates. In other words, she thought she was going to make a killing, and he offered her some dates. So Malia Zahara, she was filled with anger, and Shakli and Shidabinah, she threw in the river. So I said, I shouldn't have underscored so cheaply, I shouldn't have went so cheep. Wish everyone a very good Shabbos. Thank you for listening.